the Islamic other invasions, and then the rule of British for more than 200 years and so on. All that, finally could not completely erase our tradition, our belief, our culture, etc. We suffered. We suffered. We went through a lot of difficulties. But ultimately, slowly it started emerging. Even post-independence also. So many years we were completely suppressed. Now some kind of revival. Of course, any revival would also bring some difficulties, some problems, some violence and so on. But slowly people are really feeling that the ideas of our own tradition, culture, it's all being felt more strongly now, so to say. How is it possible for the atheistic West to eradicate the religious degradation that resulted from its own materialism? So, खुद ही जूझ रहे. West itself is suffering. The maximum suicides are happening only in Western countries, if you take percentage-wise. Being themselves imperfect, how can Western countries make others perfect? इसलिए तो वहां से भी any right-thinking person, people who are interested in something superior, they come in such large numbers to for the search of religion and etc. to Asia and more particularly to India. It cannot be said that India's national life was free from defects before the conquest of West. Yes, ऐसा नहीं है इंडिया में कोई दिक्कत नहीं था, कमतियां नहीं थी. Not that. There were defects. But the nation was then vigorous and full of life. So its people constantly strove to rectify those defects. जो भी निकला था, whatever used to be the defects, they would slowly rectify them. As we observe a certain lack of effort on the part of the nation and society today, we understand that the application of medicine in the form of materialistic Western ideas is about to kill the patient along with the disease. So मैं so worried. आप पश्चिम देशी दवाई ले आए, लेकिन वो तो बीमारी भी खत्म कर देगा और रोगी की भी कर देगा एक ही साथ. Will kill the patient and the disease. That kind of a strong is a Western materialistic medicine. It is now evident that the degradation of religion in the West has also affected India. In fact, it is striking to see how far that degradation spread all over the world in this present age. If there's any truth in religion, in which God's grace one can attain the truth, then undoubtedly the present hedonistic age has deviated far from it. महाराज से बोल रहे हैं क्या 130-40 साल की पहले की बात कर रहे हैं. I don't know what Sarada would say if they are to be alive today. Then itself he says the Western degradation is completely spread across the world. Modern science has improved the condition of human life by providing people with various objects of enjoyment, but has failed to bring them peace. If modern science and conveniences are enough, then why there is such a high rate of suicide in Japan, in America, supposed to be so advanced countries? Actually, we don't know what is happening in China. Actually, no one knows what is the truth in China. So China can never be counted or relied upon. But America and Japan, such a high rate of suicide. I think by the time you are 16, 17, you must have seen at least 3 doctors for depression and other psychological issues. Roaring practice, psychologists, practicing psychologists, counselors. Why? Why every person, every other person gets a doubt himself, whether I'm in depression, I have to go to a doctor. So if the conveniences and science, etc. are enough, why such a condition in the society? Who will halt the degradation of religion in the East and the West and teach people to follow the new path of peace? What is the way out? And of course, Maharaj refers to Gita. Lord Krishna has promised in the Gita that whenever there's a decline in religion, he embraces his own Maya in order to become incarnate, to restore religion and help people to regain peace. Huh? That's what that famous sloka Ida ida hi dharmasya glani bhavati bharata abhyuttana dharmasya tadatpanam sujamaham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha duskritam dharma samsapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So again I will come. But how does he come? By imposing his own maya on himself. Otherwise, how that infinite, boundless, uh, that God, Arishvara, how does it assume a human form and accept all the limitations? It's because Devi Hesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Durataya. My Maya is very difficult to overcome. And so, he says, Avajananti Mamuda Manushim Tamastam Param Bhavamajanantu Mahabhuta Maheshwar. So, everything he has assumed only by his own Maya. Sambhavami Atma Maya, he says. It's possible only by his own Maya. Otherwise, how does that boundless, ever perfect Ishvara or the God assumes a human form? Will not the need of the age intensely arouse his compassion? Will not humankind's emptiness and anxiety induce God to assume body? So, he says again, if Lord Krishna has promised, is it not the time ripe enough for such an advent? O reader, the need of the age has accomplished the task. The Lord has truly reappeared as a world leader. He is talking about the advent of Sri Ramakrishna. Listen with faith to his blessed messages. As many faiths, so many paths. You will realize God through any spiritual discipline if you practice it wholeheartedly. One of the extraordinary gifts of Sri Ramakrishna to mankind. Whatever may be your belief, whichever path you want to follow, do it with sincerity. That's why, in this Yatomat Tatopat, it's not just only talking about so many paths. The essence is practice. The real meaning of Thakur's this Yatomat is because apparently when you see when paths are different, how can you believe it? But he says the real essence is you become an intense practitioner, sadhaka. So Swamiji also says religion is realization. Whatever may be your beginning, wherever you might be, if you are sincere, if you are honest, if you practice with the diligence and intensity, you will certainly reach the goal. And at that point, when you are really in that transcendental realm and that experience, you realize that these are all only man-made differences and they don't really count for anything at the ultimate stage of realization. So Sri Ramakrishna never says Christianity is equal to Islam or Islam is equal to Hinduism or Hinduism equal to Sikhism, anything like that. He never goes into the dissection at all. He says is take a path, practice it intensely. If that suits you, if that is your liking, if you feel for it, you start. But practice. Unless you go the full distance, unless you really put in an intense effort, how will you know that it is true or false? Anything, even all the people who are supposed to be believers in even Hinduism or whatever it is. What is the depth of our belief? Are we practicing intensely? Have we really gone beyond? So actually, you can imagine to what extent people have to advance in spiritual life, because a person like Raja Maharaj somewhere says, Nirvikalpa Samadhi is just the beginning of spiritual life or something. Imagine the level to which one has to do sadhana. So unless one is intensely serious, and unless one is devoted to one's own path or practice or belief or whatever it is not possible. See, even to know that something else is not true, you have to practice intensely. Na? Otherwise, how would you know anything? So that is why he says, yes, really, you will realize God through any spiritual discipline if you practice it wholeheartedly. Reflect intensely upon the superhuman renunciation and austerities Sri Ramakrishna practiced to revive the supreme knowledge. So I know Swamiji, after experiencing Nirvikalpa Samadhi, Sri Ramakrishna said, no, this would remain locked. You have to do mother's work. Then only the key will be given and you'll be able to unlock the treasure. But Swamiji was not a person to keep quiet. So he went on a Bharat Parikrama. He was in an intense mood of tapasya. He went to Pahari Baba. He was so much attracted, he wanted to take initiation from Pahari Baba. He tried. 21 times Sri Ramakrishna appeared and said, Aisa mat karo. He did not say, but the very appearance of Sri Ramakrishna made him forego that attempt. Finally, leaving that place, he writes to somebody, Sri Ramakrishna has no peers. Sri Ramakrishna koi duty nahi hai. The world has not seen such extraordinary spiritual manifestation, and at the same time, so much compassion for the humans who are suffering. See, that is Ramakrishna's greatness, his compassion for the suffering humanity. So, he says, he writes to somebody also. See, you believe whether Ramakrishna is an avatar or not, that does not matter at all. But see his intense, his extraordinary renunciation and the austerities. Tyag or tapasya dekho. You believe that. You don't have to believe that he's a god or an incarnation or anything. Have you seen such a life? That is the testimony to Sri Ramakrishna's life. What do you mean by believing he's a god or anything? You can put up in a small place and you can offer maybe flowers or some nevedya or some fruits and something like that. What does it matter? But if you believe in his extraordinary renunciation and tapasya and all that, we should try to bring at least a little of it into our lives. Then only we'll understand who he was and what he did and how he can progress in spiritual life. Otherwise, nothing would happen. So now Kamar Pukur and Sri Ramakrishna's ancestry with this introduction. Sarat Maharaj has really set the tone. What was the need for Sri Ramakrishna's coming on earth? How was it justified? How was it the dire need, necessity of the society, particularly of India for that time? So he has traced it beautifully in the introductory chapter. Now he is taking us to the Sri Ramakrishna's ancestry, etc. Of the great souls who are still worshipped as incarnation of God, all religions, all except Sri Ramchandra and Lord Buddha, began their lives in sorrow, poverty, and hardship. सबको जीवन आप देखें, गरीबी, बहुत ही दिक्कतें. That was the situation. Here are some examples. Although Sri Krishna belonged to a royal dynasty, he was born in a prison and spent his early life in a community of poor cowherds separated from his relatives. उनका बचपन था वैसी. That is how he spent his childhood. Sri Shankara was born, Lord Jesus was born in the stable of an inn, glorifying his poor parents. Sri Shankara was born after his father's death, the son of a poor widow. Sri Chaitanya's parents were most ordinary people. Finally, the Prophet Muhammad, the founder of Islam, also came from a poor family. All these great souls were born in families where there was contentment amidst suffering and poverty, where there was selflessness and love in the midst of hardship, and where the hearts of their poor parents were filled with a blend of renunciation, purity, steadfast humanness, compassion, charity, and other noble qualities. So their background was very rich in all these great qualities, but poor in terms of material comforts, excepting Buddha and Ramchandra. Of course, they also at a very young age had to give up and take to a life of intense austerity and tapasya. Buddha voluntarily left, but embraced a terrific, an extraordinary life of tapasya and deprivation. And Ramchandra at a very young age was confined to forest for 14 years. One was 14 saal. So, whether they were born in an affluent family or anything, all of them had to undergo such intense life of austerity and tapasya. Through careful reflection, one can see a subtle connection between the avatars, births in poverty, and the future courses of their lives. There had no previous awareness of and sympathy for the condition of the poor. How could they in later life accomplish their mission to give solace and peace to society's afflicted, poor, and the persecuted? So he says, probably, there was a great connection between, their birth in such families and the way their lives unfolded later on when they became really truly awakened, when they clearly knew their position or their purpose in life as an avatar. So they were born so that they could experience firsthand. अब जब तक ऐसे खुद ही अनुभव नहीं करते हैं, they will not be able to feel. A person who has never experienced poverty and deprivation in life, how can he really appreciate the sufferings of anyone else? आप तो खुद ही बचपन से ऐसे ही आपका जीवन है और संभव ही नहीं है. So this is why, their mission to give solace and peace to society's afflicted, poor and the persecuted is because they themselves experienced such things in their childhood. However, this is not the sole purpose of their advent. We have previously discussed the fact that avatars come to halt the decline of religion. धर्म की जो गिरावट की रोकने के लिए आते हैं. To fulfill that mission, they first become intimately familiar with the traditional religious laws, and after reflecting upon the causes of religion's present degradation, the avatars discover a new dispensation according to that particular time and place in order to revive those ancient laws. धर्म की ग्लानि क्या है? गिरावट कहाँ हुआ? कैसे हुआ? So even as they practice, they slowly understand the situation. कैसे कैसे हुआ? ए धर्म का ऐसा गति क्यों है? Why it was like that? And based upon all that, a new method, a new path, not a new religion, the ancient Sanatana Dharma, in a form, in a way which is acceptable to the present age, उस समय के अनुसार उपयोगी ऐसा कुछ नया वो पथ निकालते हैं. A new dispensation according to that particular time and place in order to revive those ancient laws. इसलिए धर्म संस्थापनार्थ है, धर्म की पुनर्स्थापना करने के लिए आते हैं. But the same dharma in a form, in a new way, a new approach, which is more appealing to the time in which they came. कुछ समय के अनुसार. The huts of the poor, not the palaces of the rich, offer the opportunity to become intimate with religious traditions. तो कह रहे हैं, महाराज का ये कहना है, गरीब उनको तो कोई जागतिक ऐसे कोई भोग की तो सुविधाएं नहीं है. So such people always hold on fast to God and His dispensation. साधारण से ज्यादा गरीब इस सब में बहुत विश्वास करते हैं. ये सब घर पे गरीब also is not such kind of a dire poverty, but people of a very modest or that kind of means, in those families only, these kind of religious beliefs take deep root. In fact, some of seniors also used to say, religion is more for the kind of middle class. If you are too much pressed with the problems of daily existence, आपकी हर रोज भीख मांगना पड़ता है, such people also obviously can't think of God. People are too rich or also busy with their own wealth and other possessions, they have no time. Only the upper middle class or lower middle class or that kind of families where there is not too much of that kind of mad running after wealth and possessions is not there, nor are they totally busy with the daily problems of survival. हर रोज जीना ही मुश्किल है, ऐसा होने में भी भगवान की चिंता कैसे करेंगे? So somewhere where they live a simple life. So Maharaj also says it the lesser advantage or privileged people, they alone would hold on to God. So such houses alone give opportunity for the advent of such great personalities so that they can learn firsthand the problems of life and at the same time also find solutions. Therefore, in spite of widespread religious degradation, a glimpse of the ancient religion keeps the poor person's heart luminous. जितने भी हो, वही घर पे कुछ तो कुछ आपका मिलेगा ही. That is why it seems the great teachers of the world are attracted to birth in poor families. The same situation occurred in the life of Sri Ramakrishna, whose story we are about to relate. So everything's Shatmaraj is trying to put everything very logically and a proper context. So he says that it's possible. About 60 miles northwest of Calcutta, in the northern part of Hooghly district, very close to the borders of Bankura and Midnapur districts, is a cluster of three villages forming a triangle. Although these three villages are known to the villagers distinctly as Sripur, Kamarpukur, and Mukundapur, they are so close that they appear to travelers as different sections of the same village. Teen gaon tha, but then they were so close to each other. The general visitors, travelers thought that it was only one village, but actually teen gaon. That is why the three together are known as Kamarpukur to people in the surrounding villages. Baki log sochte the sab Kamarpukur was prominent in the early 19th century because the local landlords had lived there for many generations. At that time, Kamarpukur was a tax-free estate belonging to the family of the Guru of the Maharaj of Bardwan. The descendants of that family, Gopilal Goswami, Suklal Goswami and others were living there. So Maharaj ji सब हृदय राम मुखोपाध्याय से बहुत उन्होंने पता किया था. The town of Bardwan is situated 32 miles north of Kamarpukur. A paved road begins at Bardwan and encircles half of Kamarpukur village, then turns southwest to Puri. Many poor pilgrims and monks travel along this path to visit Lord Jagannath. उस समय का पूरी जाने का वो एक मार्ग था. Those days, साधन फाधन वाहन बहुत कम मिलता था. People largely used to undertake pilgrimage on foot. बहुत दिन से 6 महीने से 8 महीने से पैदल चलते 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 ऐसे बहुत ज्यादा भी तीर्थ यात्रा करते थे. There is a famous Tarkeshwar Shiva temple about 20 miles north of Kamarpur. From Tarkeshwar, there is a path to Kamarpur via Jahanabad or Arambagh, which is situated on the bank of the Dwarkeshwar river. Additionally, there are two more roads to reach Kamarpur, one from Ghatal, 18 miles south, and another from Vanavishnupur, 26 miles west. Maybe more or less these are all traceable even now. Words cannot express the serene atmosphere that pervaded the agricultural villages of Bengal before the malaria epidemic of 1867. It was such a wonderful place, but then there was a major malaria epidemic, and that caused great havoc. In the midst of expansive paddy fields, these small hamlets of Hooghly district looked like islands floating in a vast green ocean. The villages were healthy and strong, happy and contented. They had an abundance of food from the fertile land, and unpolluted air refreshed their hard-working bodies. That's why I said those it was largely an agricultural-based society. जिसका जितना जमीन था उसी से हो जाता था. People used to have enough to eat. Those who are rich always would stack, and it would be used for feeding during times of difficulties, etc., etc. They used to give liberally to others also. Apart from agriculture, the people of those populous villages engaged in various small industries. Kamarpur is still known locally for various kinds of sweets such as jalebi, nabat, and other delicacies. To this day, people make a decent living by manufacturing tobacco pipes from ebony and exporting them to Calcutta. महाराज सब उस जमी का सब जमाना का सब बताते हैं. अभी भी of course कमारपुकुर बहुत सारे जिलेबी का दुकान है. Once Kamarpukur was well known for manufacturing yarn, towels and cloth and for other handicrafts. Vishnu Chapari and other famous cloth merchants lived in this village and conducted a prosperous business with Calcutta. Calcutta इतनी दूर था उस समय, अभी तो 3 घंटे में पहुंच जाते हैं. So going to Calcutta was like going abroad probably. So Calcutta के साथ business करते हैं Kamarpukur से. Even today, the village market is held every Tuesday and Saturday. People from Tarahat, Badanganj, Sihar, Deshra and other surrounding villages come to Kamarpukur on market day with their merchandise such as yarn, uh, cloth towels, earthen pots, and pitchers, winnowing fans, baskets, fine and coarse mats, and other commodities for daily use, as well as agricultural produce. They buy each other's products and sell their own. अभी भी वहाँ जो विलेज मार्केट हट का एक प्रथा अभी भी है लग रहा है. Now also they have. But then, Maharaj is giving a beautiful picture and probably taking us back to those times. अब जब सुनते सुनते हम लोग का उस समय का याद आ जाता है. To this day, there is no want of festivities in the village. During mid-March to mid-April, Kamarpur reverberates with devotional songs and worship of the goddess Manasa and Lord Shiva. And beginning on the 11th day after full or new moon in May or June, people dance and sing of the glory of Krishna continuously for 3 days. In addition, different religious festivals are traditionally held all year round in the house of the landlord, and daily worship and other rituals are performed in all of the village temples. Of course, at present, the grinding poverty of the village has put a stop to many of those religious observations. Same ही महाराज कहते हैं बहुत ही गरीबी आ गया. उसकी वजह से जो गांव का बहुत सारे सिंपल जो फेस्टिवल्स होता था सब बंद हो. See the lifestyle. They were rich, they were landlords, they were only a small piece of land. Still, everybody would gather, celebrate, have kirtan. There will be distribution of food. See, lifestyle, the more you make it complicated, the more other problems come in, just anger, jealousy, and all that. So, but they were all simple, living together, spending time that way. At one time, Dharma, one of the gems of the Buddhist trinity, was worshipped in the Kamarpur area with great eclat, but this practice has passed into oblivion. At present, the same Dharma has been transformed into Kurma and is worshipped nominally in surrounding villages. Sometimes even Brahmins are seen worshipping the image of the deity. One hears different names of the same Dharma in different villages. For example, name of Lord Dharma in Kamarpur is Rajadhirai Dharma. In Sripur, Yatra Siddhirai Dharma. And in Madhupati village near Mukundapur is known as Sannyasi Rai Dharma. At one time, the chariot festival of Dharma was celebrated at Kamarpur with pomp and grandeur. One could see the tall chariot with 9 pinnacles next to the Dharma temple. But after the chariot broke down, it never was rebuilt. As the Dharma temple fell to pieces for want of repair, the priest Yajneshwar moved the deity to his own house. So Maharaj is giving a very graphic account of what happened in those times. In Kamarpukul live people of all castes such as Brahmins, Kshatriyas, weavers, milkmen, blacksmiths, potters, fishermen, and undertakers, among others. There are 3 or 4 big ponds in the village. Haldar pond is the largest among them. There are also many small ponds. Some of them are adorned with 100-petal lotuses and white water lilies. There is no dearth of brick buildings and tombs in the village. Previously, there were many more. The ruins of Ramananda Shankari's temple, Fakir Datta's dilapidated Rasamancha, where they used to have the Krishna festival, heaps of bricks covered with jungle foliage, and many deserted temples in various places indicate the former prosperity of the village. धीरे धीरे गरीबी आ गया, ये सब टूट फूट गया. There are 2 cremation grounds, Budhi Maral in the northwest and Bhuti Canal in the northeast. To the west of Bhuti Canal, there is a grazing field, Manikraja's public mango orchard, and the Amodha river, not far from village. Bhuti's canal flows south and joins the Amodha river. Why Maharaj is saying, all these would become places of Thakur's Leela. In each place he has done such wonderful, enacted such beautiful Leelas. All that later on will be mentioned. A mile of north Kamarpur is Barsubo village. Manik Chandra Bandhavadaya, an extremely wealthy man, lived there. He was known as Manik Raja to the people of surrounding villages. Besides owning the mango orchard, he is well known for constructing some lake such as Sukha Sahar and Hati Sahar. It is said that many occasions 1 lakh Brahmins were invited to his house and fed. Probably, I think this is a hyperbole. Still, large number of people used to be invited and fed. To the southeast of Kamarpur is Mandaran village. At one time, there had been an impregnable fort to protect the surrounding villages from enemy attack. A moat was constructed around the fort by carefully diverting the course to the nearby Amodar river. The ruins of the broken gate, the mound, and the moat of Fort Mandaran and its nearby Shaileshwar Shiva temple exist even today. They indicate the importance of these places during the period of Pathan rule. The highway leading to Bardwan passes near Fort Mandaran. On both sides of this highway, there are many lakes, etc. Of course, there are all a couple of miles of there are 3 villages: Satbere, Narayanpur, and Dere. So slowly, Maharaj is coming to the real plot, located side by side. At one time, they were prosperous. The temple of Dere village and Adarimi. At the time of which we are speaking, the 3 villages were under separate landlords. Ramananda Roy, the landlord of Dere, lived in Satbere. Although he was not very wealthy, he was a tyrant towards his tenants. He was annoyed with someone for any reason, he would not hesitate to deprive that person of everything. Itna क्षमता था, सब छीन लेते थे. None of his children survived him, and later his after his death, his wealth and property fell in the hands of others. He said that his dynasty was destroyed because of his sins of oppression. ऐसे करते करते पूरा उनका वंश ही ध्वंस हो गया. Nobody survived this. Nearly 150 years ago, a middle-class, pious Brahmin family lived in Deri village. They were of noble descent and virtuous conduct and were worshippers of Ramchandra. They are still commemorated by the Shiva temple and the adjacent pond known as Chatterjee Pond. Manikram Chattopadhyay belonged to that family. He had 3 sons and 1 daughter. Sridharam, the eldest son, was probably born in 1775, and then came a daughter, Ramshila, and 2 sons, Nidhiram and Kanairam. It is not known whether Sridharam learned any practical money-earning trade as he grew up, but God blessed him with truthfulness, contentment, forgiveness, renunciation, and other qualities that considered by the scriptures characteristics of a good Brahmin. He was tall and strong, but not bulky. He was handsome with a fair complexion. Following the family tradition, had an intense devotion to Ramchandra. After finishing his daily spiritual disciplines, he would pick flowers and worship Raghuvi, and only then would he eat. He was so rigid about adhering to his Brahminical rules, he would not accept any gifts from the lower caste, nor would he accept any invitation from a Brahmin who performed rituals for them. He would not even drink water from the hands of Brahmins who gave away their daughters in exchange for a dowry. Because of his steadfast devotion and good conduct, the villagers loved and respected him greatly. So, imagine the Avatara might be born in a poor family, but to such parents of extraordinary character, conduct, such nobility. Imagine the qualities of Thakur's father, Sriram. He himself was, I think, worthy of worship, so great a personality. After his father's death, Sridharam took over the management of the ancestral property and performed the household duties the best he could while remaining steadfast in his religious path. He was married, his wife died young. He was about 25, he remarried. His second wife's name was Chandramani, but her family called her Chandra. Her father's house was in the village of Sarati Mayapur. Chandra was beautiful, simple, and devoted to God and holy people. But her most remarkable qualities were her deep faith and her loving, affectionate nature. That is why she was dear to all. Chandramani was likely born in 1791, would have been 8 at the time of marriage in 1799. Her first son Ramkumar was probably born in 1805. 5 years later, her daughter Katyayani was born. In 1826, she rejoiced at the birth of her second son, Rameshwar. It did not take long for Sridharam to realize how difficult it was to manage a household while following the path of righteousness. Shortly after her daughter's birth, Sridharam fell into a terrible predicament. We already described the oppressive nature of Ramananda Roy, the landlord of the village. Ramanand became annoyed with someone at Derepur and instigated a false lawsuit against him. As the landlord needed a trustworthy witness, he requested Sridharam to testify in his favor. He wanted him to give Mithya Shakshi. The religiously minded Sridharam always dreaded legal affairs and courts. न पहले तो ऐसे ही था आपका किसी को सत्यानाश होने के लिए ऐसे ही they used to give a curse आपका घर में कोई मामला हो जाए you get into a legal battle and you live finish कैसे इतना दिन चलता था. Now also it's like that only. Ramanand's request made him extremely anxious. He had never resorted to any court case, even for a just cause. If Sridharam did not bear false witness, he would incur the landlord's rage. Although he fully realized this, he did not agree to testify. As a result, events unfolded as they had been preordained. The landlord accused Sridharam falsely and filed a lawsuit against him. After winning the litigation, he obtained Sridharam's paternal property through an auction. का पूरा वो नीलाम में पूरा ले लिया. There was not even a little plot of land for Sridharam and Derepur. Although the villagers were genuinely sympathetic to Sridharam's predicament, their fear of the landlord prevented them from helping him. जानते थे फिर हम लोग के ऊपर वो केस करेगा, मैं क्या करूं? Thus, at the age of 40, Sridharam became completely destitute. The property he had inherited and everything he had acquired from his own effort, it all disappeared like a cloud blown apart by a gust of wind. But this predicament did not disturb his righteous conduct even slightly. He took refuge slowly in Raghuveer and then calmly reflected on his duty. He left his parental homestead and village for good with a view to ridding himself of the villainous landlord. उनको पास तो एक टुकड़ा भी जमीन नहीं था, अब क्या करेंगे वो, कैसे रहेंगे? So obviously he had to leave the village. They say, he had almost 50 acres or 150 bighas of land, which the landlord took away by a false case. We have already mentioned Suklal Goswami of Kamarpur. He and Sridharam were long-standing close friends because of similar disposition. He was also a very pious person. Suklal was extremely disturbed when he heard of his friend's predicament. He invited Sridharam to settle in Kamarpur permanently and offered him a few thatched huts on his own homestead. उनका बोला आप यहाँ आ जाओ, I will give you something. Sridharam thus found a heaven, realizing that the invitation had come by the inconceivable grace of the Lord. Sridharam accepted it with gratitude and moved to Kamarpur permanently. अपना गांव छोड़ के कमारपुकुर आ गए. From there he has shifted to Kamarpur. The well-wisher Sukalal was very happy about the move. He made a permanent gift of a rice field nearly half an acre in size to the righteous Sridharam for maintenance of his family. ऐसे सुंदर उन्होंने एक जमीन दिया था, उससे उनका संसार चला जाए. Half acre. In fact, they became so famous. We used to call it Lakshmi Jala. It was so, fertile. Enough rice for the entire family for the whole year. They used to get out paddy. They used to get out of the land. Not only that, Chandramani was always very, very kind and hospitable. She also used to feed others. Just by that half acre of land, they had so much of paddy used to be produced. So that takes to the end of the chapter. We are just beginning, setting the Saratmana, setting the scene for the advent of Sri Ramakrishna, about his noble parents, that they were poor, how his father was ready to give up everything because he did not want to be a false witness to a case. So, all these say that how the advent of the Lord takes place in a family, very rich in virtues and other qualities, but maybe poor by material standards. We will continue it next week because I think so far we have discussed only just the background. So when we come to the actual life and the other parts, there will be occasion for us to discuss more in detail, and you can also probably ask questions, etc. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Namaste.
प्रणाम महाराज जी।
Namaskar.
नमस्कार।
प्रणाम महाराज
প্রণাম মহারাজ। চলো চলে গেছে মহারাজ,
चले गए।
प्रणाम महाराज।